You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObscast.com.
Hello and welcome back to episode 121 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and joined by Cameron Crane, executive editor for TVObsessive.com. We are in the TV streets all the time, so I assume you spent all 4 hours watching the Emmys on Sunday night, right? You forego the football for Emmys, I presume.
No, I was watching football.
Same.
But I was scrolling Blue Sky a bit, and I follow a bunch of critics and all of that, and so like it was interesting. I was just like I was kind of following the Emmys on social media, but not watching it. And
Yeah.
let's talk about the Emmys. We'll go ahead. We can just start with that since you brought it up. I don't put like a ton of stock in awards like this. I mean, it's okay. But it seems like almost every year you can find at least one thing where you feel like, well, that shouldn't have won, or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't get too invested in it personally. But I did think it was worth noting, and I am happy about a few of the winners. Um, Terrell Tillman won for
Mm,
Severance,
yes.
which I think when we were covering Severance, we said like give him all the Emmys.
Yes, exactly.
Apparently, he's the first black man to win the supporting actor Emmy. So yes, great, congratulations, and well deserved. His performance in that show is amazing. As is Britt Lowers, who also won an Emmy.
Yes, yes. Both were supporting, right? Or was she a lead?
She got it for lead.
Lead,
They
that's
they
right.
they
Yeah.
they categorized her as lead actress, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I
You
think so.
know, there's a way in which she's almost like co-protagonist to that show.
That's true.
And then the other one, the one that actually made me the happiest, is Jeff Hiller won for Somebody Somewhere.
Oh, that's right. I caught a little bit of that speech on social media. Yeah, I think that's the name that's in all the things that happened, sort of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit. But that's right. I know that you've been a big fan of that show. I think I only saw the first episode, but yeah, that's great news.
Yeah, so just happy for him, happy for the whole crew there and everything else. And then I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about with the Emmys. A lot of it was pretty unsurprising, I thought, from what
Yeah.
I saw. You know.
Well, I think the things that stood out were I was thrilled that Andor at least got one award. I think Andor got it for writing in a drama series. I think we both are happy that the Traders won again, I believe. Interestingly, after especially the last 2 years, the Bear shut out completely
Mm.
from this year's Emmys. And then maybe just sort of get your thoughts after our conversation a couple weeks ago, a show that we just talked about, the Pit sort of swept a lot of awards. And that was a show you have had almost, I don't know about divergent views on, but I was thrilled to see that happen.
Yeah, well, as I said when we talked about it, the fact that it's not for me,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of to go back to what I was saying originally about not investing myself a lot in the Emmys or putting a lot of stock in them or whatever. I think sometimes it's just kind of like that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
how do you judge what is the best TV show of the year? And then that they're not watching everything. It's a matter of what's
Right.
submitted and all of that sort of thing. And I definitely am aware that um, at least most critics, if not most TV viewers, think that the Pit is really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I can see why, and also how it feels weirdly kind of new as old again or something,
I was
and
gonna say the same thing. Yep.
it makes some sense along those lines that it's winning awards to me. And I mean, as I told you when we talked about it, I just find it too frenetic, too stressful, too anxiety provoking, and I know it's supposed to be that.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But instead of it gripping me personally, it makes me feel like I want to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the point about, I think it's about as procedural as you'll get on a streaming service these
Yeah,
days. With Pitt, obviously these other ones, certainly very arc driven shows, and the Pitt is to that is that same way to an extent. But yeah, it feels like the days where ER and West Wing and shows like that were winning every year, at least somewhat like that compared to its competitors.
yeah. And it's the Emmys, man. It's just like it goes back so far for me to the extent that I've paid any attention. That I recall, Twin Peaks did not win Emmys. You know what
Hmm.
won? LA Law.
Oh, that's right. Back early
So,
90s. Yeah.
so it's like, and I don't feel like people are still talking about LA Law. I don't know if it's available to stream even. Maybe it's really good. I didn't really watch it or anything back in the 90s. I was a kid. Anyhow, push forward. September 17th. I don't think we mentioned that yet. Somehow already halfway through, more than halfway through September. Uh, Leaves are going to be falling. Chill's going to creep into the air. All of that good stuff. We're going to continue talking about Alien Earth in the latter part of the pod. The penultimate episode of the first season. Some good stuff there. Hopefully, people are keeping up on the show. They've really been enjoying it. What else
Hmm.
have you been watching this week, Ryan?
Well, I actually picked up on something I know you've watched that our site is writing about and that I've seen several people recommend. I told you I was sort of looking for an itch to scratch for sci-fi, and so I did sort of watching Foundation on Apple TV Plus.
Very good.
Still in the first season, first few episodes in. This is nothing spoiler at all, but there are certainly sort of timeline things to consider in the show, and I think some of it sort of threw me at first. But I sort of tried to adjust to that and look into what's happening, and I understand quite a bit better. But enjoyed especially the pilot for the sense of um, seems like there are a lot of puzzle pieces there, and it takes almost at the very end of that pilot to really see what the picture is going to be.
Yeah.
But I really was hooked by the end of that, and now several episodes into the first season, and again, very specific genre sci-fi. Not going to be for everyone, but if you're looking for something that has a really strong story, is well acted, and I think compels you with sort of where it's going, kind of back and forth in different places. I've been hooked by it so far.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed Foundation. I've been watching it since it premiered, which has been several years now.
Hmm.
Um, so I haven't rewatched season one. My recollection is that season one felt a bit uneven to me at times. So I'll be curious to hear from you whether you feel the same way or not. It's possible you don't. It's one of those things where there are multiple storylines and multiple settings.
Hmm.
So when you got Lee Pace on my screen, you got me. Like all
Yeah.
the Empire stuff, I'm just find like great. And then some other times, with the Foundation itself or whatever, in the first season in particular, I recall feeling like, well, this is kind of dragging, but I think once you get to season two, that kind of stops being a problem for what it's
Yeah,
worth.
yeah. I
Um,
think in episode two there was a long stretch that was just um two people talk about their relationship and a lot of making out and love making, and I thought, oh boy, I don't know, is this what the show is going to be? And then no,
right.
it quickly got past that. And so far so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like when I say uneven, it's like the tone is different in these
Yeah.
different settings almost. And I think that either I got used to it or they did kind of sort that out better once you get into season two. Season three just ended on Friday.
Hmm.
And we have had coverage on TVObscast.com from Brian Allen. If people want to read his articles, I think he does really good work on the show. Um, he always like points you also to other sources and stuff like that. He'll point you towards interviews and stuff like that, which I always
Interesting.
appreciate
Okay.
how he goes into that kind of stuff. And it's been renewed for season four. We've got that going for us. Shakeups in the background behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how worried to be about them. So David as Goyer was a showrunner. He stepped away as a showrunner during season three. He said that at the end of the day, he's pretty happy with what they did in season three, or is happy with it. So it's not like they all hate each other now or something.
Mhm.
He said it was like 85% what he had planned or something like that. But moving into season 4, I think he's just completely out of the picture. And I think I've also read that Jane Espenson, who's done a lot of writing work on the show, is also going to be out of the picture. And I don't know, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
If I had to speculate, I think that Goyer's original 8 season plan has been chucked out the window.
Yeah, now we should say, I mean, for those that don't know, and I've not read these, but this is based on a series of Isaac Asimov books, right? The Foundation series. I forget how many books there are.
Yeah,
But yes, apparently the original plan was a long arc of seasons for this show. I admittedly did not read this piece about it being renewed. I just wanted to try to, in case there were any spoilers in there, I
there
wanted to
might be.
avoid
Yeah,
that. But sounds like it's mostly behind the scenes things that are happening.
yeah, some shakeups, and I don't know how true it is to the books. If anyone is still out there who's read the books and not watched the series. Well, I haven't read the books, but I have read a number of things on the internet pointing to pretty significant differences. Like the whole thing with
Mm.
the Empire and the what do they call it? The Cleonic Dynasty or whatever. My
Chaotic
understanding is that
Dynasty.
that's just not in the books.
Oh,
And
well, that's pretty major. That's a
and
pretty major divergence.
it's like the most interesting thing to me about the show. Is my understanding is it's just not in the books. So that's a big one. And I don't know. I feel like I was seeing some book readers expressing discontent back in season 1, who may have just quit watching the show because I haven't seen that much being expressed since then. So
Got it. Okay.
anyway,
To
I think
to
it's a
continue.
good show. It's fun.
Yeah.
If season 1 does feel uneven at all, keep going.
Yeah.
Um, as for myself, I checked out Task, which you mentioned last week.
Yes.
I watched
Yes.
the first episode. I thought it was quite good. Haven't gotten around to watching episode 2 yet. Maybe I will this evening. 'Cause that came out on Sunday. I think maybe what I appreciate most, because it's like a gritty crime drama.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
do kind of like when shows do this thing where they also give us the perspective of the criminal.
Yep. Yep. That's one thing I love about it. There is not there's not one POV in this show. We are
Yeah,
getting at least two, and sometimes, in this second episode, move into a third person or group perspective of what's happening. And I was pleasantly surprised with some of the directions that the second episode takes in terms of we're introduced to new things, new people, and sort of new things happening. And so I thought, well, man, there's a lot happening in episode 1 that could really be muddled if we're trying to add more to that. But I think that it took an interesting direction. I'll be very curious to see your thoughts after you get a chance to check it out.
yeah, I'll have to catch up. And we've been talking about possibly discussing it on the podcast at some point. We still haven't fully made our plans for what it's worth. Did you ever watch The Fall? Speaking of shows that do that kind of thing,
Ball. I don't recall watching that show.
Gillian Anderson.
No, I haven't.
Definitely recommend. And the guy is and what's that guy's name? I think it's like Jamie Dornan,
Hmm.
who like went on to be Dorian, play Dorian Gray and stuff. I think he's pretty
Yeah.
famous now. Anyway, he wasn't as famous when they made the show, but I really recommend The Fall, and um because it does the same kind of thing with giving you the perspective of the bad guy,
Hmm.
who is maybe even more straightforwardly a bad guy, but it's like still like, why are you making me feel empathy type feelings towards this guy? He's not, yeah, but it's interesting when
Okay.
they do that kind of
I
stuff.
want you to put a pin in that, and we need to come back after the second or third episode and talk about that exact question, like how much we feel empathy and connection to this quote unquote bad guy. So yeah, we need to revisit that at some point.
Yeah. Regardless, I just enjoy the structure and playing with perspective. I don't want to give any spoilers for The Fall or for Task, but I do recommend The Fall. I'm pretty sure, I don't know. It's probably been 10 years or something since it came out, and I
Okay.
recall binging it on Netflix a while ago. But I can't presume for sure that it's still on Netflix.
Yeah.
Probably,
Netflix doesn't get rid of anything.
but sometimes they do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got rid of like they actually got rid of one of their own original shows, at least one of their own original shows. What was that show? It's like one of the first original series they did. It was kind of a horror series.
Oh, interesting. I'm not sure.
I can't even remember what it was called now. Anyway, maybe later I'll remember. Let's see. We also got a little bit of casting news. Matthew Rhys is joining Presumed Innocent. We've talked about this show a few times. You watched season one. I haven't. You were kind
Yeah,
of go
I
ahead.
grabbed on to this. I mean, maybe just because of the Matthew Rhys side of it. I mean, The Americans is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So just adore Matthew Rhys and what he's able to do. But it also in this piece that we'll link to talks about how it's Matthew Rhys. It'll be Rachel Brosnahan, Jack Rayner, others that are in this second season. Really, just sort of closing the door on this idea that there will be any connection to the first season, the Jake Gyllenhaal season that came out, I think, last year. Which again, I was somewhat mixed on, but overall thought it was done very well. But I think if they can um, keep um, the structure of how they're doing things, how they're introducing these cases, the intrigue behind it, I think it can be done well, particularly with the people that they have cast for season two. But again, this will move into the section of okay, we're now calling this an anthology series because it doesn't appear to
Yeah.
be any connection between the first two.
Yeah, that's what I've gathered from what I've read, which is interesting because I remember when you watched season one, and we talked about it briefly on the podcast here, that you had some thoughts about, oh, where might season two go? That kind of intrigued you. It
Yeah.
looks like it's just going to be a wholly separate thing.
Yeah, there was a major bombshell cliffhanger at the end of season one. He could have gone a lot of different directions, but well, that'll just be left up to the imagination, I guess.
Interesting. But it's not the worst thing. Gives you room to dream,
That's
as David
right.
Lynch might say.
Right.
I always think when a really good show gets canceled, I'm always upset, of course, but
Hmm.
there's so many canceled series that I'm such a fan of. I can't imagine never having watched the OA, for example, right? And it got canceled, it ends on a cliffhanger, like a big wow moment, and then you just have to like, that's it, man.
Yeah,
And but you can play with it in your imagination, right? You get to write season three of the
there you
OA,
go.
and it always will be indeterminate. Enjoy the fragment, like the capital R romantics. Um, okay. There's the last thing I do want to hit on, just sort of pour one out for Alan Sepinwall. I don't know. I mean, he's still going to be writing in all of this, but
Hmm.
certainly I found the news to be rather shocking. And it seems like potentially he did too, kind of came out of nowhere. Rolling Stone laid off Alan Sepinwall as their TV critic this week, and some other people, some other
Hmm.
significant writers. Um, it's tempting to veer off into some kind of long rant or discussion about the state of, I don't know, the media as a
Yeah.
whole, even potentially. Um, I don't know. Thoughts on this, Ryan?
Well, just I'll avoid the opportunity to go there as well. I mean, Steppenwall is the pinnacle of this, right? I mean, we love what we do. We love getting to talk about these things and write about these things and digest this stuff. And I mean, we all owe a debt to him in some way. But it's just, I mean, he basically summarized it. It's tough out there. If it can happen to him, I mean, it's just sad to see where it may be going from here.
Yeah, like his career is like the dream,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Basically, he's been doing this for 30 years or something. And when I read that Rolling Stone was laying him off, I guess my first, well, not my first thought, but my inference ultimately was, I guess they don't plan to just do that anymore.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like I don't know if they'll replace him, or if they're going to quote unquote replace him with AI slop, or who
right.
knows. But yeah, it's definitely tough out there. I think that Sepinwall, I mean, I would imagine he'll land on his feet. He's got his newsletter going.
Hmm.
Um, it sounds like from what I've seen him say on social media and so on, that's his plan at the moment. But I think he'd be perfectly open to getting some cush gig at some other
Oh yeah.
outlet, but doesn't necessarily expect that. But
Yeah.
even there, thinking about the overall landscape, maybe you can make a go of it, getting subscriptions to your paid newsletter if you're Alan Sepinwall,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just stuff out there.
I did
Really kind of
check that
shocking.
out. He's got various levels of which you can subscribe to that. I did join just to, I don't know if it was a moment of solidarity or whatever, just sort of shock. And so, join and, see what kind of content comes out. But he does write a very interesting newsletter and has for some time,
Yeah,
apart from his work with Rolling Stone. Yeah, I think this just speaks more to the sense of the decline of original written word, sort of where we're going, right? All of these media sites going towards um, either AI or video produced or podcast form, which he did some of that, but if you're primarily paying someone to write written reviews of and critique television shows, then I guess they decided it wasn't worth it at this point.
I guess. And that is one conclusion, for those of us who do appreciate that kind of written work and so on and so forth. You gotta support people, and the idea of I think one of the difficulties is we're so used to the idea of being able to just read stuff
Hmm.
online in particular for free, or like
Yes,
you deal
yes.
with some ads or whatever. But I think it's increasingly becoming apparent that even that sort of model with online ads doesn't really work.
No, no,
And so anyhow, that's a bummer. And it's someone else was pointing out, it's like, well, of course they waited until right after the Emmys, um, but I think he was writing on Alien Earth for Rolling Stone, but they didn't care to wait that out. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe it's just hit on this newsletter. Anyhow, let's move in that direction. Alien Earth, we're up to season 1, episode 7, called Emergence. Season's almost over. Sad about that. I am excited for the season finale next week, though. So if you haven't watched Alien Earth episode 7 yet, you may want to go and do that and circle back to us. Spoilers will be on the table for everything through episode 7. On the other side of a brief musical interlude, we'll be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we are here to talk about Alien Earth, Season 1, Episode 7, Emergence. This series created by Noah Hawley. This episode written by Noah Hawley and Maria Melnick and directed by Dana Gonzalez. A lot here in this one, so here we go. We'll settle in for this. Smee discovers that Slightly is hiding Arthur's body in his room. Slightly convinces him to come to the beach and assist in delivering Arthur to Morrow. A security team attempts to clean up the lab after the incident with the fly, but Wendy discovers they're trying to cover up Isaac's death, so she hacks to the security system and sets the xenomorph free. That xenomorph then kills a lot of the scientists and security officers. Wendy then finds Nibs and Joe and convinces them to come with her and escape the island. As Slightly and Smee try to head towards the beach with Arthur, Kirsch stops them and offers them a faster way to get there. While on the beach, Arthur wakes up confused about where he is. The facehugger has fallen off. Soon, the new xenomorph bursts from his chest and escapes back onto the island. Morrow and his Yutani soldiers find Slightly and Smee and take them both into custody. Morrow's team shortly thereafter is intercepted by Kirsch at the Prodigy building, and Kirsch reveals he has the new xenomorph in his custody. Meanwhile, Boy Cavalier observes the damage done by the aliens in the lab, but is mostly interested in the intelligence of the sheep with eye alien inside and decides he wants to try it on a human. As the episode ends, Wendy, Nibs, and Joe attempt to flee the island, but they're stopped by Prodigy soldiers. Wendy communicates with the grown xenomorph and it kills them all. At the boat, the Neverland security team confronts them, but Nibs kills one of them, prompting Joe to shoot her with the electrified gun. Wendy and the nearby trained xenomorph are furious that Joe would turn on them. So a lot of things learned, a lot of time in and out of the lab in this episode. I was maybe more or most intrigued by the idea that is Wendy controlling this xenomorph now? Is she sort of got this thing under his control? Are they just allies? Are they what is their relationship now that she's learned to essentially be able to communicate with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I read it more like they're friends, I guess, open to some interpretation. I think going to the level of saying she's controlling it is probably
Mm,
too far. Is the xenomorph tame?
Yeah.
Not really, but she has managed to establish some level of relationship with it.
Right.
And you put a link on her sheet to this interview with Noah Hawley, which I did read. Um, that has some interesting kind of insights. But I'm curious what you think, Ryan. I mean, did this work for you to imagine that Wendy could have this kind of relationship with the xenomorph?
I I guess I read it more as maybe I wanted them to be more allies or to understand that they were after the same thing, but it just read to me like anytime she would communicate with it, she would be telling it what to do and it would do it. Or so maybe that their interests are aligned that way. I don't know. It just seems like have we established already that Wendy is able to not just communicate with this thing, but sort of have it follow them around and protect this group of people and do what she wants it to do. There's a little bit in this piece that we can link to about the communication and connection that different aliens have forged and that we've seen in the movies. But this was just an interesting dynamic, maybe one that I wasn't expecting. We knew that there was a communication, but man, this sort of I don't know if it's telekinetic or if it's some other kind of connection. Just I don't know, threw me for a little bit. Made for interesting action scenes, but no, it kind of was just unexpected on my end.
Well, she has to make the noises, right? Like
Yeah,
she speaks the xenomorph
exactly.
language.
Yeah,
I think
Joe
that's
trying to
the
cover her
idea.
mouth. Yeah.
And there's a level at which, she connected with it right after it hatched and so on, and
Mhm.
has been continuing to, kind of establish that relationship. So I think it mostly works for me. Yeah, we could think about like a tiger or something like that
Mm.
along similar kinds of lines, Like, can you fully tame a tiger? I don't know, man, but you can kinda, establish some relationship and so on. Um, Speaking of the films, I went and watched Alien Resurrection this past
Ah,
week,
okay, good.
which we mentioned on here before as something like, oh, maybe I should rewatch that. It's been quite some time. I think it literally had been since 1997. Um, when I saw it in the theater. And yeah, man, I definitely think there's some stuff in there that Hawley is pulling inspiration from.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if you recall the film, and
Not much at all.
so I'm just assuming that anyone listening is okay with Alien Resurrection spoilers. Do you think that's fair?
I think we're in the alien universe. We can go right ahead
Okay,
with that.
okay. So you recall they've been sorry, they've been trying to clone Ripley, who
Hmm.
died at the end of Alien 3, with a xenomorph inside of her. And they finally succeeded. And of course, what
Yeah.
they're after is the xenomorph. They cut her open and they take the xenomorph out. So far, so good, compelling film, right? And Ripley then, or clone Ripley, because she's like has the xenomorph DNA like mixed up in her genetics.
Hmm.
Um, is whatever special in various ways. This is all pretty interesting. But like, then Ron Perlman and Winona Ryder show up and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Um, but then it turns out, right, that the xenomorph also has some human DNA. And this is the part where it gets kind of stupid, right? I think this is what people don't like. But maybe even here there's something to think about in relation to Alien Earth. Okay. Because
Hmm.
in Resurrection, it ends up being the case that like the xenomorph has human DNA, so that it actually does like a live birth.
Mm.
And then there's like the ugly baby boy xenomorph. You remember this at all?
I remember it. There's also some stuff like this in Alien Romulus. I don't know if you've seen Alien Romulus, but some similar things.
I have, yeah, but relatively recently. But anyway, but no, but the big thing that would relate or resonate with what's going on with Wendy here is I'm pretty sure like the baby boy xenomorphs like calling Ripley mama and stuff. Like it wants that kind of connection, which she rejects, you
Yeah.
know. So I think again there's all sorts of ways in which in this TV series Hawley is taking inspiration from things that happen in the films,
Yeah.
but often kind of inverting them,
Hmm.
right? Because it's in Alien Resurrection, it seems like Ripley slash clone Ripley could have had this kind of connection with the baby boy xenomorph. I mean, it's like a new species. I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's like, oh no, that's disgusting, right? Um, Whereas in the show, of course, Wendy is establishing a relationship with the xenomorph. Look, I don't know. I don't know how much insight was
Yeah.
there, but I did find myself thinking about that having
My
listened.
mind, my mind actually went to, I guess it's episode 2, where they had the xenomorph implanted in Joe's lung that they took out of his body. And I got to thinking, oh, well, there's some sense of shared DNA there, but there's not, because I don't believe we have any knowledge of DNA being transferred over to Wendy from Marcy when that personality or consciousness was transferred. So there's nothing that's there. There's something about Wendy's abilities and how she is created in this hybrid sense that's allowing her to connect.
Right. I mean, so you're not getting that kind of biological connection. It's
Right.
rather what, you know? And we've noted before, there's always been some kind of weird relationship between synths and the xenomorphs in a certain way, and they're playing with that
Hmm.
as well. I don't know. Anyway, at least for me, I think it works.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I don't imagine that she has some kind of complete control over the xenomorph or anything like that. But I'm thinking of it along those lines of how you can train a lion or something like that. Still a dangerous creature. Um, I don't know about you. I kind of wanted her to call it in to kill everyone at the end of the episode.
It does make for some an interesting dynamic you can have at any point in time, that you can sort of on demand have the xenomorph do what you need to. And now that there's multiple ones loose, not loose necessarily, but on the island, and we sort of got this maybe sort of what we're left with in the episode. I'm curious if she plans to now unleash this on Joe, because Joe is sort of turned on the synth, or turned on Wendy's best friend there, and if not killed, at least disabled her so that he can take Wendy and escape, it seems.
Yeah, well, he's yelled. She's yelling, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, and of course, they're surrounded by soldiers and all of that. And it really does seem like the very next beat could be her calling down the xenomorph, but it's the end of the episode. And then I don't think that's going to be the beginning of the next episode. I think she's going to not do that.
Right.
But it definitely felt like in that moment she was considering it. I mean, there's one point where she does start making a call and Joe stops her.
Right.
And we've talked about this a bit before, how it was going to play out in terms of her loyalties, as it were, to Joe versus the xenomorph versus Prodigy, I guess. So it's
Yes.
maybe three. Um, she's ready to leave with Joe. She's turned off on Prodigy. Now, I mean, like Isaac's dead and all of
Yeah.
that. I think that all makes sense. But where do you think
But,
she's at here at the end?
but that was before I think Joe seemingly made a snap decision to side with his colleagues and humans over Wendy and Nibs. And again, we're sort
Yeah.
of left with this, Nibs is in some kind of state that we don't know. Is she dead? Is she just disabled? Is she just, stunned? What's the situation here? But yeah, I think that Wendy is quickly learning that the only ally she has on this island is the xenomorph, right? And if there's some sense of who's on my side, is really no one except this alien.
Right. And of course, it makes sense from Joe's perspective as well. This is his unit, or at least some of them, right?
Hmm.
I'm not sure if all of them are, but at least some of them are um, people that he's worked with before, right? Like his comrades in arms in his job as a medic or whatever, right? So the fact that Nibs um, starts going on a rampage against them, Joe's not okay with the idea of killing all the soldiers so that they can get away. and
Right.
that's
Right.
why he shoots Nibs, and I think that makes sense. But then, yeah, from Wendy's perspective, that's a bit of a betrayal, right?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
and you can
Yeah.
also take it at the level of you're prioritizing human beings over us, and they've just seen their graves and so on, also, which I don't know why those are there. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
I, I thought that about that as well, in the sense that they are there so that at least those two characters have some finality of we've been sort of considering what our place is here and who we are and what our role is. This is to show us that, you know, we are not we are not considered, nor have we ever been considered as humans or part of that group here on this island. We are considered like these aliens. We are species to be experimented on. We are species that they can control. There are things that they have allowed us to do or that they have not allowed us to do. We are not these people anymore. Those people are in the ground, right? So what we are is just basically property, IP to them. And so it's just sort of the sense of finality. And I think that's what maybe clinches her decision to take Nibs and Joe and say, let's get out of here because we can't, I can't be part of this anymore.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. I guess I'm thinking from Prodigy's perspective, why have these tombstones and all of that?
Yeah. Why have it be so
Um,
out there, like right in front of people when yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe for the purpose of making that point to the hybrids at some point, if they
Yeah.
want to do that, look, you're not who you used to be or something. But
Right. Right.
yeah, the risk of being overly cynical or something, part of me just feels like Prodigy would, just throw the corpses in the trash and move on, and they have
Exactly.
graves.
Exactly.
Um, there's something else there too, where there were, the previous conversation, I think, between Arthur and Sylvia about worst case scenario, we killed some kids. And I said,
Yeah.
well, you did do that.
Yes.
The graves also indicate that they know that at some level, right?
Yeah, but back when our friend Arthur was still with us and apparently married to Dame Sylvia. Yeah, Arthur having a rough time of it on this on this island.
I did feel real bad for the guy in this episode, I must say, after he wakes up, the
Yeah,
face hugger's fallen off, and that whole scene where he's trying to convince me and Slightly to go back and how he loves them and he'll help them and we'll all figure this out together. Come on, boys.
yeah.
Both of them, by the way, also kudos to the actors.
Oh
I thought
yeah,
that particularly in this episode, but really throughout, they've done a great job of being young boys in
yeah.
their demeanor, in their personality, in their decision making, in all of that.
I will say I questioned this several weeks ago. Over the last few weeks, that's really grown on me, particularly with these two characters. I think the Smee and Slightly relationship, how they're making decisions like children would, how they're being talked to like children would be talked to, how they're reconciling things like children would. Yeah, I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah. But so Arthur dies. Unsurprised. I mean, the only question was, like, are they going to make it to Murrow with the
Right.
xenomorph still inside of them? And no.
Yeah.
Right. So that xenomorph gets on the loose. As you mentioned in your summary, Kirsch et al., they get it, right? So you ultimately have the standoff between Kirsch and Morrow, and that Kirsch has won. I guess, at least I started thinking once we got to that point, that this was Kirsch's plan all along. What do you think?
Okay. This is my theory as well. That I mean, we have this conversation about. Well, there's two paths, but here's the path I'm going down is Kirsch is giving them the fast elevator to the beach. Get there as quickly as you can, um, because he sees them with Arthur, who's still got the thing inside of him, and in a sense of he wants them to find Morrow. He wants Morrow to make and that group to make their way to where he is. I'm sensing that there's a plan in motion by Kirsch that there's something happening between there's something that's being planned between Morrow and Kirsch that makes them think that they're more on the same side that we may think they are. There's a sense
Interesting.
of they're doing this together, or maybe it's not even that that's together apart from the corporations, but Kirsch is more maybe on the more Utani side than we are led to believe here. I think that there's a sense of he wants this alien to get out. He wants this thing to go to them. I just trying to reconcile why he would send them quickly to the beach unless it was to make sure that they get to Morrow before the xenomorph comes out. 'Cause he knows that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going a slightly different direction than you, I think, when it comes down to it. Because what I'm thinking is, we've been asking for several weeks, why is Kirsch just allowing all of this to happen?
Yep.
He knows what's going on with Slightly. He's overheard Morrow asking him to do things.
Yeah.
He just goes ahead and lets Slightly do the stuff with Arthur and so on and so forth. And I think it was last week when we were talking about this and wondering whether Kirsch was plotting a coup or something like this. And some of the stuff you were just referring to, I think, would be related to those kinds of theories we were discussing last week, maybe. By the time we get to the end of this episode, I find myself thinking, oh, Kirsch just did a really risky plan to catch Morrow.
Yes, this is the second path. I'm glad we're on maybe one of us going down each one of these because that I can certainly see that as well.
So, like, he let Slightly do all this stuff in order to capture Morrow.
Yeah, just send them out there as bait, basically.
Yeah, it's a trap, ultimately.
Yeah.
We know what Slightly is doing. We know where Morrow's going to come, and so on and so forth, right? So he doesn't loop Kid Cavalier in on the plan, or wait, what's his name? Is it Kid Cavalier?
Boy Cavalier.
Boy Cavalier. It's sort of stupid name. He doesn't loop him in or anything like that on the plan, but I think ultimately it makes sense or it tracks if you read it in that way, that this is just, okay, I'm going to let Slightly do this. So that will draw Morrow to the island.
Yeah.
And then we know where he's going to be, and I'll be able to capture the cyborg nemesis. Because I think they have him in custody at the end of the episode, right?
They do. It looks like that they have, yeah, he says something to the effect of, no one likes a sore loser. Basically, you're beaten, Morrow, so come with us. And so, yeah, it does have a sense that Kirsch is in control here, has both Smee Slightly and Morrow and his whole crew captured there. And in addition, he has one of the xenomorphs or the baby xenomorph in some kind of cage. Now, that thing's going to outgrow that thing. If it's the pace of this show, it's going to outgrow it in about 5 minutes because those things are growing pretty fast at this point. So, this is, I mean, definitely the most compelling thing that's going into the finale is what is Kirchner's plan? What is he going to do, not only with Morrow and these people, but with this xenomorph he's got locked up?
Right, which presumably you just put in the lab. The lab seemed to be holding the other one pretty well until Wendy let it go.
Yeah.
I will say they don't seem quite concerned enough about the other xenomorph that's loose on the island.
Yeah. When that happened and Kirsch and Cavalier are looking at it loud, watching it on the screen, they're both just like, huh, okay, yeah, I guess that's what's gonna happen. We'll, find them later. Oh, the trackers are turned off. Okay, well, I guess we'll go try to find where they are. No real sense of urgency there on the fact that at least Kirsch knows what these things can do, but not a sense of it's under control right now.
I mean, I guess it's a shared hubris or whatever that we'll figure it out, you know. So from Kirsch's perspective, maybe it makes a little bit more sense than from a human perspective. That maybe he's thinking, okay, well, the first thing is Morrow.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is we've got a xenomorph on the loose out there. We'll get to it.
At least it's out there. It's not inside the building anymore. Yeah, we'll find it eventually.
Yeah, it's an island.
Yeah.
So yeah, really curious to see how that all shapes up. Jumping back to Wendy, if she's not going to call the xenomorph down, well, then the soldiers are going to take her and Nibs and Joe back to the base.
Yeah, I guess that's what confused me about this whole thing. And going back to our initial conversation, even if she doesn't communicate it with it and say, attack or whatever it is that she's doing, however she's prompting it, it's not like this thing's predator instincts are going to turn off. It's been following them. She told it to stay close. I mean, isn't it not going to attack those people regardless of what she does?
I don't know. Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Um, but them going back to the lab, back to the base, whatever term is appropriate, that's certainly not what Wendy wants.
Right. Right.
Nibs got shot by the stun gun thing. I don't know if is Nibs okay or not. What happens when a hybrid is shot by that kind of weapon? I don't
Yeah.
think we know.
I would be really disappointed if that's the last we see of Nibs.
I doubt it will be,
Yeah.
but it look, what I guess what I'm trying to get at is if things go according to Prodigy's plan, they'll bring those three back to the lab. They'll work on Dibs a little bit and get her going again.
Yeah.
Um, but Wendy's not happy. And then I kind of think that Boy Cavalier wants to put the eyeball octopus in Joe. What do you think?
I think, yeah, we get a sense of, oh, we're just going to put it in a mold scrubber. But then he says, oh, I know the perfect, person. Yes, if they bring Joe back, who has tried to escape with his product and has been told to leave anyways. Yeah, Joe, Joe is our last man standing in terms of candidates that can get this thing. And I'm quite fearful for him going into the finale.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible he could have been thinking of Arthur. He's clearly thinking of someone, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know what happened to Arthur at that point, I don't think. He knows Arthur's missing.
Yeah.
Um,
Adam is there with him. I don't know if they had a conversation that I think they had a conversation that, oh, he wasn't on the ship or wasn't where he was supposed to be when we told him to go. So yeah, he's MIA to them basically.
right. So I just don't think they're going to take that path because
Yeah.
it's not narratively very interesting to have Cavalier land on the thought of doing it to a guy who ends up being dead.
Yeah.
But he has someone in mind. Um, the eyeball seems to be very smart, seems to know pi.
Those next three digits of pi at least. Yeah.
So he wants to put it into a human being and see what happens then.
Yeah. Now
And
we saw this for a minute in
mhm.
episode 5 when it goes into the engineer and then the engineer battled the xenomorph and I guess it left after that after kind of losing that battle, but we haven't really seen the full nature of what it could do if inside a human.
Yeah, I remember wondering at the time whether given sufficient time it could figure out how to talk.
Yeah. Yep.
Because in that episode it doesn't. It can't talk. The guy just kind of like groans and stuff after he's been taken over by the eyeball octopus. Um, so that's a question. And how much resolution are we going to get in the season finale? I guess is another question. I find myself wondering if it will be extra long.
Yeah.
I even tried to look into this on the internet and I couldn't find a runtime or anything, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised by like a
Yeah.
90-minute finale. I mean, there's a lot of loose ends, dangling threads, or what have you. On the
There.
other hand, we know Noah Hawley wants to make multiple seasons, so maybe it doesn't all have to be resolved in
Yeah.
next week's episode.
That
So
was a little nugget I picked up from the official podcast this morning. They had Dana Gonzalez on talking about directing this episode. He's also doing the finale of this season, and he just made sort of an offhanded comment about the story has to naturally let us progress into the next season. So is that a sort of, does he know something that's not been announced yet? Or, what's the plan? We talked about, will this progress into a next season or will this be more of an anthology? So I tend to, with that comment, think that, yeah, we're going to get some things answered here, but also maybe quite a few things are going to be set up for a potential second season in this next episode.
yeah, I think so at this point. I don't think it's going to be a closed story with the possibility of anthology installments. I think it does seem like it's more likely to be a narrative that remains somewhat open at the end of season one, because I mean, there's just so many things that haven't been resolved. Now we've got a second xenomorph on the
Yeah,
island. You've
right.
got the dispute between Prodigy and Utani. They've taken Morrow into custody. You could expect then there should be some further interaction between these two companies along the lines of,
Yep.
hey, you sent your cyborg to infiltrate our base, lawyers again, maybe, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
monetary compensation again, you know, whatever, right? And there's all
Yeah.
of that. There's the whole plan with the hybrids that's kind of going to shit, but they still had that idea. There's supposed to be some presentation in a few days or whatever. They snuck that in on the
Yes.
margins, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Cavalier says, well, they went that $6 billion, just eh, that
lost
money
one.
down the drain. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just a lot. On the other hand, given the setup of things, you know, you certainly could end the story anytime you wanted to. You just have the xenomorph kill everyone or kill almost everyone, and then
It's just lose on Earth. Yeah.
well, no, it would have to die as well somehow at the end, you
Yeah,
know.
that's true. Yeah.
And then so that there would be no more alien threat. Um, so we'll see. There's really a lot of possibilities, as you were just kind of indicating, right? If the aliens didn't die, if they just killed everyone on the island, then there'd be like, well, hey, that's season two. There's a
There it is.
island on Earth that's got alien life on it.
There's a pretty
Someone,
clear path here of everything in Prodigy is destroyed, and so Utani tries to come, and then the other three corporations hear about what's going on. They try to come and take these things. So there's a sense of we've got three corporations we haven't heard of yet or had any exposure to, so that could be a part of the second season.
right? I think the biggest question I have is how much of Prodigy survives.
Hmm.
Um, Meaningfully, it could be all of it.
Yeah.
Like clearly not all the people, but it could be the case that we end season one and Boy Cavalier is still alive and
Yep.
he's put the eyeball into Joe or something. Um, and you know, cliffhanger. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. They haven't really mentioned Curly or Sylvia very much. I don't know how much I have to say about this. Just to note what's
Yeah.
going on with Curly, who won't. She refuses to leave with Wendy and Joe. In contrast to Nibs, but she does seem to be keeping the secret the last we see her, but she's upset, seeking comfort from Sylvia, and I don't know. Any further thoughts about Curly?
Just made me think of I think she's had one other impactful scene in this season where she approaches Boy and says, I want to be your favorite. I want to be here. I want to be the one that call your own or your favorite. And so what has she done to make those things, to make that happen, to reach those ends? Something there that she is hiding, and that's, I mean, if we've got time for it, something that will be revealed hopefully in the finale as well.
Yeah, I mean, presume that has to go somewhere. So we've got a whole
Yeah.
lot of stuff that has to go somewhere. And it does increasingly feel to me like, all right, well, some things will get resolved here at the end of season one, and other things will not. And thus
Right.
we get season two. Yeah, I can't imagine they won't renew the show.
I just see no way that they won't let him have another. I mean, they've given him what, 5 seasons of Fargo. They're going to give him at least another season of Alien.
Yeah, and I mean, it really at least feels to me like a lot of people are watching the show.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
like Mina Kimes is podcasting about this show. You know, it seems like it's being it's a success, right?
Yeah.
I saw an interview with Sigourney Weaver talking about how the show's better than the films or something. You know, like I think this show is a success, and so they
Yeah.
want to make more. I'm confident they'll have the chance to do so. All right. Anything else you want to hit on with this one before we wrap
No,
up here?
I think that's it. I mean, I am really anticipating this finale. I will say as we end, we do have the title of there is this trailer out there. I don't really want to talk about that because I haven't really paid much attention to what's in it. But the title of episode 8, the finale, is The Real Monsters.
Yeah.
Now, this has the potential for you're telling us instead of showing us going on here. So I really hope we're not here a week from now saying, oh boy, they're pretty heavy-handed in the fact that, oh, the humans were the monsters all along. And, it's just sort of this, let's hope for the best there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the straightforward interpretation, right? The real monsters are the human beings.
Right.
The real monsters are the trillionaires, you know, and I'm fine with that, you know, I mean, if that's It's just not the most creative title, I
Right.
suppose.
Exactly.
Um,
Hopefully it's just
not-
a red herring, meant to throw us off a little bit.
maybe if they're spinning in another direction, it's like, yeah, the real monsters are the flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the flies are pretty scary. Um, but all right, yeah, looking forward to that. We'll wrap up our coverage of Alien Earth next week. Hopefully, you'll join us. Thanks always for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Check out TVObscessive.com. Find written work on any number of shows there all the time, past and present, and all of that. You can follow us on social media. If you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us. And we'll be back with you next week.
All right. See you then for the finale.